And hello, my fabulous students. This is your favorite teacher, Mr. Jacobson. I am excited to be with you today. As you can see on the screen, today we are talking about the Industrial Revolution. It will go from 1750 to about 1900, 1914, somewhere in that area. Industrial Revolution actually gets broke up into two parts. You have the first Industrial Revolution and the second. So with enough said, let us begin. Here's a map of the time frame that your textbook gives you, so I went ahead and just put that up there for your benefit. So why did it happen? Why did the Industrial Revolution occur? What are the factors that led this thing from becoming a massive movement that's going to shape and reshape the world as we know it forever? Well, first thing is, in the 1400s, we have a global population of like 375 million people. And then by the 1800s, we have 1 billion people or population upon the earth. So you can see an exponential growth happening in just 400 years. And one of the main reasons of this exponential growth that we're seeing now in the 1800s is because of the Columbian Exchange. With all the potatoes and the corn that was coming over to Europe, it made it easier to live, people didn't starve as much. If you have more food, you naturally will have a larger population. And with more people, people themselves can be a commodity or can be a resource. And so you're going to have all these people now on the earth, and they're going to start banding together and moving away from small farms, going to more urban life, which makes it easier to have kind of like an industrial revolution with a factory kind of setting in a city. So we have old energies. We have wood, water, wind. They become very scarce. If you don't know what scarce means, it means it's very hard to find. It's not easy to acquire anymore. So there's going to become scarce in Western Europe, China, Japan, all these places where they used to be able to get them. It's going to become harder. If it's harder, the price automatically goes up. And that's a problem because business, you want prices to be down if you're trying to buy. If you're selling, of course, you want them to be up. So old sources like wood, water, wind, they get replaced by new sources of energy like coal, oil, natural gas. And then another reason is there's this attitude of a culture of innovation, and it's this attitude that things can always be improved upon. And so we're going to have this attitude that people are always going to look for ways in which they can improve something. They're not just going to accept it anymore. Let's see if we can make things better. So here are some factors that eventually led to industrialization. We have Europe's location in the Atlantic Ocean. It's right off the Atlantic Ocean, which gives easy access to the Americas. I shouldn't say easy access, but gives open access to the Americas. And of course, it allows them to go around Africa and to the Indian Ocean and to China and India and all those other places with spices. Geographical distribution of coal, iron, and timber. We have European demographics begin to change. We have urbanization, like I talked about before. We have improved agricultural productivity. You got things like the cotton gin that's just making things so astronomically easier to produce textiles, which people always need clothes, and clothes will always be something people will buy. So at least as far as I can see in the near future. Legal protection of private property. Now there's protections. Why are you going to work so hard to build up a business if the government's just going to confiscate it? Now they're going to have legal protections against such things where the government can't do that. An abundance of rivers and canals, access to foreign resources like taken from colonies. And then we have the accumulation of capital, mercantilism, and capitalism. So if you look here, you can see this is Europe. And if I asked you, where do you think most of the industrialization is happening, you would probably say where most of the colors are, and you would be right. So in Great Britain here, this is where the majority of industrialization is happening during this time. And it's also where it begins. It's all about Great Britain right now. So we're looking about 1780, okay? And Great Britain is going to be the forerunner of this industrial revolution. And you'll see places such as Germany, places in France and Denmark, Netherlands. All these places are going to start exploding in this attitude of using these alternate ways to produce energy like steam power, etc. So new technologies, we have machines, steam engines, internal combustion engines. First, it required a vast amount of new resource stored in fossil fuels like coal and oil. So we have like coal now is becoming very popular. It's a type of energy that that people can use because people are starting to run out of wood because timber has been used so much that it's harder and harder to find trees. So they had to find another alternate source of fuel. Machine powered by fossil fuels greatly increased the energy available to human societies. Development of factory system and concentrated labor in a single location. You have a factory, people have to go to that factory to work, and so it concentrates people in a certain area. You don't want to walk a long ways or go a long ways to work, so you tend to migrate closer to the factories. It led to increased degree of specialization of labor. In a factory, you all have a job and you do your job really well. And so people became more specialized in their labor. Doesn't necessarily sound like a great thing, but it was good for factory settings. As technological advances first emerged in Europe, they would spread to America, Russia, and to Japan. So here are some of the stages of the revolution. We have the first stage. That's going to happen around 1780 to 1840. It begins in Britain and spreads to northwestern Europe. Use of coal, iron, railroads, textiles. A lot of exciting things started happening. You got steam engines and things like that. They're starting to emerge. And then the second industrial revolution, you got things that are a little more refined like steel, chemical, electricity, and you even have precision machinery, which allows you to make more fine-tuned things. So you can also look at that here to get a better idea. Moving on. Factories need raw materials. Factories use raw materials to refine it to make it more refined so they can be sold, or for energy. Raw materials were taken from the mother country or from colonies. So if you're England, you're going to take the raw materials from England, Great Britain, or if it's not there, you're going to go to India and other places where you have colonies spread out, and you're going to start stripping those colonies of those raw materials. Intense extraction of such raw materials had lasting effects on these areas. Most colonies were stripped of their natural resources from other countries, thus lowering the quality of life in that region. Raw materials could be like cotton, meat, wheat, sugar, palm oil, rubber, guano, which is basically seabird excrement or poop, and then metal and diamonds. We have a shifting of economic power too. So in Europe and America, as they're increasing in steam-powered industrial production during the Industrial Revolution. So as northwestern Europe is becoming more powerful in America, and they're implementing all these Industrial Revolution technologies, the Middle East and Asia, they're starting to get left in the dust. They haven't moved into these new sources of technology, so you're going to see them produce the goods that they produce in that region. They're not going to be able to do it as fast or as efficient or as cheap, and as a result, global manufacturing is definitely going to decline in that region. So we have the Indian Ocean that was once the prime for trading. It is not necessarily going to be that place for trading. It's going to be more a place for extracting raw materials. So examples, here we have shipbuilding in India and Southeast Asia. It used to be a massive global trading place where you'd go to buy these things, and it's going to not be anymore. Ironworks in India, it's not going to happen. Iron's going to be made much cheaper in Europe, and as a result, people are going to want the cheaper iron and the more faster, easier to make iron. And then we have textile production in India and Egypt is also going to decline because they can also get textiles now, cotton from America, and America also has factories, etc. So with technology, it just changes everything. You know, people who used to be on top for business and trading, if you don't keep up with technology, you can get left in the dust. Another thing that happens is we have commodities that start expanding through the world. Opium becomes a really big thing, especially in China, and the French and the British are going to kind of vie for that market. You have cotton grown in Egypt, South Asia, Caribbean, North America, are exported to Britain and European countries. We have palm oil produced in sub-Saharan Africa and will be exported also to European countries. And then copper will be extracted from Chile and western United States. Industrial Revolution, it brought economic change as well. Many economic changes were inspired by a man. This man over here, his name is Adam Smith. Adam Smith is the father, if you will, of the free market system. Some people like to say free market system is also capitalism. He wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations, where he talks about how the less government intervention in the economy, the better. And then John Stuart Mill, he has an idea called classic liberalism, and he came out with this notion in these writings on utilitarianism. And lastly, we have large-scale transnational businesses coming out now. We have Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Company. It's called the HSBC. It is still around today. This is their logo today. It was founded by British bankers. We have the United Fruit Company. It was based in the U.S. Of course, they were operating in Central America because that's where all the fruits were. And then we have financial instruments used, like we have the stock market that starts to emerge. We have the gold standard. We have insurance. And we have limited liability corporations. So it's getting kind of exciting with the whole industrial revolution, new ways of producing things, new ways of economy, new ways of thinking how outside the box, and it's going to lead to an explosion of more new things and some more unintended consequences as well. So go ahead and write your one-page summary, and I look forward to discussing this with you when we come back. Bye-bye.